Bruchim Abayim to Torah Anytime, Tisha B'Av, Burst of Inspiration. At the end of the parasha, we have a haftarah called Chazon Yeshaya, and therefore we call this Shabbat Chazon, which speaks about the rebukes Yeshaya gives to Am Yisrael for the sins of that generation. But not only at the end of the parasha we find that, but rather also in the beginning, as it says, Ela Devarim, Rashi says, Divrei Tochechot, Moshe Rabbeinu rebukes Am Yisrael for their sins. Why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu waits to rebuke Am Yisrael until he's ready to pass away in the end of his days? Rashi says that he learned that from Yaakov Avinu, that rebuked his children at the end of his days before he was ready to pass on. And Rashi says, it's an interesting lashon, why is it that he waited so long? Why did he wait for the last moment? Rashi says something very interesting. Let's see it inside. Melamed shelo chichan, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't rebuke Am Yisrael, ela samuch lamita. Just before he was ready to die. Mimi lamad. Who did he learn this from? Yaakov, shelo hochiach et banav, ela samuch lamita. He learned that from Yaakov Avinu, that also rebuked his children only before he was ready to pass on. Amar, Reuven bni. He spoke, for instance, to his child Reuven, and he told him, Omar lecha mipnei ma lo hochachticha kol hashanim halalu. Do you want to know why I didn't rebuke you all these years? Only now I'm rebuking you? כדי שלא תניחני ותלך ותדבק בעשיו אחי. Because the reason is, I was afraid that you might leave me and go get together with Esav, my brother. Now that's fascinating. Think about it. We're talking about Avot HaKdoshim. Yaakov. He's speaking to his children, Shifteka. Who does he have greater than those Shevatim? He's speaking to Reuven. And he's afraid that Reuven and the rest of his brothers would leave Yaakov and go connect and join Esav. What kind of thing is that? Yaakov Avinu, Kedusha, Tahara, Avodat Hashem, all the beautiful things that Avot HaKdoshot represent, and they have children, solid children. Avot HaKdoshim, solid children, have Shifteka. And those children, and Reuven specifically, might leave Yaakov Avinu and go join together with Esav. Who's Esav? Esav is the father of all murderers. Al charbecha tichyeh. Who's that? Esav. The Esav is the father of Christianity that murdered millions and millions, by the hundreds of millions throughout history, Jews and non-Jews. That's their trait. Al charbecha tichyeh. And Yaakov Avinu is afraid that his solid child, Reuven, and the rest of the children, the Shifteka, would leave him and go join the worst of all, the worst head of the mafia, the worst gangster. How is that possible? It's possible when you rebuke a child. And therefore, you break down a child when you do that, because a child looks up to his parents, to his Rebbe, to those that he looks up to. Those really have the ability to break a child much easier than others. And therefore, Yaakov Avinu is very, very careful not to make a mistake over here. Even to rebuke, it's better to keep quiet and not to say anything than to make a wrong move and cause a child to go off the derech. And that brings us to Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is about the destruction of Bet HaMikdash. But destruction of Bet HaMikdash is less than destruction of the children. In our generation, we have a plague of destruction of children. Children that go off the derech. Children that leave Yiddishkeit. Children that leave their parents. Children that start connecting and going to bad places and having bad friends. And that happens for many different reasons, but the main reason and the most precise thing that causes that trait of the children to actually live and go and follow bad people is the connection or disconnection with those that they love and those that they trust and those that really they look up to, and those mainly the parents, the Rebbe, the teachers. Why is that? Because the child whole being is dependent on how a parent feels about him. And a parent could easily break that child just by rebuke, because by rebuke he shows him that you're no good. He loses trust he shows that he loses trust with the child. He doesn't trust him, he doesn't love him, he doesn't have the honor and respect that he needs to give him. And that breaks a child, that he can go from being the best as Reuven and connect with the worst as Esav. And therefore that's a big musar for us on this Tisha B'Av, that we need to understand that our children are very vulnerable and we can make mistakes, and those mistakes could be so hard to fix afterwards, if it's possible at all. And one thing is to build a child. Building a child is a profession by itself. It says that Kol banaich limudei Hashem, ad tikre banaich ela bonaich. Means to say that building the banaich, the children, you need for that talmidei chachamim rabim shalom ba'olam. You need for that much wisdom. So wisdom, in order to build a child, that's one parasha, that's one topic. But at least not to break the child, not to ruin the child, that we could all do just by staying passive on not doing something that might be destructive. And therefore, when we come to a sugya of children, one must know if it's destructive, don't do it. Consult with somebody who understands how to do things. Maneuver things very, very carefully. Don't just make mistakes. In order to build, that's a different sugya, but at least not to ruin. That's what we're learning today. From who? From Moshe Rabbeinu, from Yaakov Avinu. This is the main destruction of this generation, the children, our children, and we need to be so careful, and we need to make sure that when we build those children, by first sur mera, don't do the bad thing, and then asetov, then try to build on that, give them compliments, build them up, sit down with them, connect with them. Only then maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be merachem on us and bring back the Bet HaMikdash, that everybody, Klal Yisrael, could rejoin together as all and bring Mashiach Tzidkenu.